NSCN is the Nova Scotia Environmental Network. We operate here in Nova Scotia, part of kind of the greater territory of Mi'kma'ki, which is the ancestral unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Hannah is here tonight from Eco-Internships, and they're kind of based in the Ottawa area, but are working with organizations all across Canada. And they provide this really incredible resource, not just funding to hire interns, but also training to support them all the way through their internship. So I took part in this internship twice, first with the NSCN and second with the Cole Harbour Heritage Farm here in the HRM. And it's a fantastic program. I can't say enough good things about it. So I'm really happy that you're here and happy that whoever's watching this recording is doing so. Hopefully you get applications in to hire some interns for your organization. So with that said, Yvonne, do you want to introduce yourself just to say hi? People know you're there.
Yeah, hi. I am Yvonne, and thank you for having me here. I'm brand new to the board, and I'm happy to be here to participate and learn more about this program. Thank you for having me.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Michaela. So yeah, thanks everyone for coming. My name is Hannah, as Michaela had mentioned. I'm the operations manager for Eco-Internships. And I'm just kind of coming to you today from Ottawa, which is located on the unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. And I just want to talk to you a little bit about our organization, our intern support program, and how that can benefit your organization and sort of what it's all about. So what I'm going to be covering a little bit tonight, as I mentioned, we'll start off with a little 3-minute video introduction that we had put together. We'll talk a little bit about the need of the program, what our mission is here at Eco-Internships, sort of the program overview and the different components of the program. We'll talk about the cost and how to finance your intern, and then how to apply for the program at the end.
Sometimes when people think of sustainability, they think that it's this crazy big thing and you have to be a tree hugger and you have to be all about green, but it goes deeper than that, and it's about kindness and being human.
I went through life not really knowing what I wanted to do, and then I discovered sustainability through my master's degree and realized not enough people are doing anything about this.
Youth across Canada have been brought together through Eco-Internships, formerly the Sustainable Eastern Ontario Internships Program, which matches post-secondary graduates or soon to graduate with environmental and sustainability charities and not-for-profits.
This internship opportunity, well, firstly, it means stability to me. So at a wage that is above minimum wage.
The Frontenac Arch Biosphere Network has taken on 3 interns. And it's awesome. It's fantastic so far.
I really like it. Why? Because I get to organize something that I know will impact the life of some people. A community. It's not some abstract thing that I'm doing. It's something very concrete. It's very ground level.
The program helps to take out the financial, training, and HR burden off of small organizations in locating and applying to funding and wage subsidies. The intern is placed in a paid internship program through the Capacity Building Institute to support this transition.
The internship training was really eye-opening, like learning about how different boards work.
You know, we've learned about different things such as fundraising, outreach, communications, but even just ways in which you can create a better platform for your organization.
So when you do your internship with the organizations you are placed in, that you have more of an idea where to start and that you're not completely thrown into the deep end.
I feel like it's meant like everything to me, especially coming out of university during COVID, where there was so much employment loss. Just to be able to kind of come in and start from the ground running and to help support organizations now.
On my own, I would not have known how to go about finding interns because staffing is a problem with nonprofits.
The internship program started back in 2017, and basically we didn't have enough staffing capacity as small organizations to really do all the work we wanted to do.
I have to say I was a little bit worried taking on 2 students and how much work we would have to do and how much we would put in for how much we got out, but my gosh, within a week or 2, of having those two young ladies start working with us. It was just phenomenal. We were just so impressed with their quality.
So if we can help take care of some of the paperwork that's involved, then that's a huge burden off of those organizations. And then if we can support the interns to have a positive experience and help them, that'll also help to make sure it's great all around.
So as this video sort of touched on, many of the youth struggle to secure jobs. They don't really receive responses necessarily after completing hundreds of applications, and they're only offered jobs maybe that they are deemed then unqualified or overqualified for. So according to Statistics Canada, the unemployment rate for youth in Canada is 10.7%. And so many of the contributing factors to youth unemployment includes their lack of professional experience, soft skills from academic institutions, the lack of professional networks that they might not have yet. But we can't necessarily blame and put all the blame on the organizations. As we know, with the nonprofits, a lot of them are facing economic hardships, and with increased costs and barriers in hiring and training interns, it's just hard to do. In 2022, the Ontario Nonprofit Network, they did this survey, and this sort of further supported this idea that because after COVID, 83% of organizations had saw an increase in their costs, and 74% also got an increase in demand for the services and programs that they provide. However, 65% of them reported that they had recruitment and retention issues and challenges, which then in the end resulted of 86% of organizations in Ontario scaling back programs and services. And so this was seen as a trend throughout Canada, but these are just some specific stats in terms of Ontario. So with Eco-Internships, we are one of 3 nonprofit organizations that work under the umbrella organization called Sustainable Capacity Solutions. And we all offer and provide various capacity building services to help with your needs with Canadian environmental nonprofits. So our mission is to create sustainable jobs for youth and equip them with the skills and experience necessary to excel in the sector. And then we support the environmental organizations across Canada by connecting them to funding opportunities to help hire these interns through different wage subsidy grants and other funding that might be available. Our key objective is to provide this productive and successful employment opportunities, both for the nonprofits, but also for the youth throughout Canada. And we achieve this by equipping the youth with career development skills and experience to contribute to their organizations and deliver on key projects. And we also provide employer organizations with the tools, the knowledge, and the systems that are necessary to adequately support the youth that they're hiring. And then we also support this cause of reducing the barriers to youth employment. And we can see that as we've secured over 186 internships since 2017 across 5 different provinces, matching them with about 69 environmental organizations throughout Canada with this program. So why would your organization want to hire a youth intern? So many of us, we don't have stable funding to support these core operational payroll for a full-time staff member. And so by hiring a youth intern, it's a great way to strengthen your organization's capacity to get more done. You can improve your organizational diversity by introducing youth to your programs and boards. You can provide these opportunities for youth to gain the experience that they need to further their own career development. You're able to develop the leadership and soft skills that the interns need to succeed and strengthen in the nonprofit community to support it as a whole. And you're also creating opportunities that will build workforce development. So the goal is that over time, you would be leading to stable and permanent positions, both for the intern and then for your own organization. And through our evaluation program surveys, 100% of the employers that we have worked with have expressed that participating in the program has helped build their capacity within their organization. And the work that was completed by the intern will continue to benefit the organization. And then 63% of the interns that have taken the program were able to secure a full-time position within 3 months of them finishing their placement with this program. Most of them within the environmental sector or related. So in terms of an organization, and if you're eligible or not for the program, the main ones is that you would either need to be an incorporated environmental nonprofit, or you can partner with another organization that is incorporated. You would need to have an annual revenue of less than $500,000 for your organization, as we do specifically sort of help these grassroots organizations. We do find that once you reach that threshold between that 3 and 500,000, you're not necessarily needing our help as much in terms of the HR paperwork side of things. You do need to be located in Canada. You will also need to have some sort of official accounting software to issue pay stubs. So that could be like QuickBooks, WagePoint, and other ones that are available. And then the other important sort of piece of it is that there is wage subsidies that will cover 75 to 100% of the internship salary, but you are still responsible to cover the remaining amount as an organization for those minimal of the 6 months of their placement. So what is a sustainability intern? They can help out with communications, outreach. They can help assist with fundraising and event management and planning. They can attend various networking meetings and to increase your own network and connections with your organization. They also work with a mentor that we assign them, and I'll talk about a little bit more later. And then the eligibility criteria for the intern, I just listed quickly here. As an overall eligibility, they need to be between the ages of 18 and 30. They need to be a Canadian citizen, permanent resident, or have refugee status. So if they're an international student on a student visa or work visa, they would not be considered eligible. They need to be available to work the 6 months, and they cannot be a current employee of the organization when they. So our intern support program overall consists of 3 main components. We have the training, the mentorship, and the community building. So to start with the nonprofit training, to ensure that they're successful in their placement, we partnered with the Capacity Building Institute to provide nonprofit training for all the interns. Training includes a specialized self-directed 70-hour training course, where we have 25 hours of live virtual sessions they take through Zoom, and then the roughly 45 other hours is through an online portal with readings, videos, and various assignments. The course also will include presentations from nonprofit experts on various different capacity building topics in the sector that will also provide real-world insight for your intern. They're expected to attend a 1-week intensive training boot camp, which would happen depending on when their start date is. We have one happening in July, one in August, and one in September. And then following that 1-week boot camp, there will be a 2-hour monthly check-in session with the interns that are participating in the program. And we do ask that these live sessions are mandatory for the intern to attend, and they would count towards their working hours of that day. And in addition to the online materials that they're doing, there will be 6 assignments for them to complete. That's part of the course. And all of these assignments have direct connections for what you'd be doing at the organization. And once they finish all of the assignments, they would get a certificate of completion and lifetime access to the course materials. So some of the topics that we cover in this nonprofit training is sort of like a basics 101, where we talk about governance and board development. We go into communications and public speaking, sort of fundraising, so how they can help fundraise for the organization, leadership, organizational culture. We get into career development, as well as self-care and diversity, equity, and inclusion. The second piece of the program is the mentors. So each intern is matched with a youth mentor that will support them in their role throughout their internship. So the purpose of this youth mentor is to support and guide the youth intern, especially when they're working for small organizations and there might not be other staff for them to work with. And so sometimes interns can have these feelings of isolation, and they might feel lost in their internship when they're the only actual paid employee. So having this youth mentor will help them provide with feedback. It'll give them the extra support that they need, but they're not considered supervisors. So they're more like coaches or cheerleaders, sounding boards, and supporters for the intern. All the youth mentors are also past interns of our program, so they understand the assignments, they have firsthand experience on working for a small shop nonprofit, and they've either continued in the sector or with the environments moving forward. As a primary supervisor of the intern, you would be expected to kind of put together this orientation package for the intern, which would sort of include a little bit of like an overview of the organization's history, if there's any current program documents, ongoing things for them to know about, if there's any internal documents for them to review, like a strategic plan or an annual report. We also get them to work on letters of intent. So if you have any samples of past grant applications that they can look at, that's also useful as well. And then we also ask you as a supervisor that you would want to set up weekly check-ins with your intern. So usually we suggest to have it at the beginning of the week, and it's very important to have these meetings to touch base with your intern throughout their internship. If you have an organization that has it's all volunteer and there's no one that could regularly meet with them, we can provide an intern manager through Eco-Internships that would more consistently meet with them, and then also talk with the board and whoever else is the main contact at your organization to make sure that communication is open there and the intern will still feel supported within the organization. And then we also ask you to do a midterm and a final performance evaluation with your intern as well. In terms of the levels of engagement, so every organization is different and they have different needs based on what their current capacity is, if they have staff, if they don't, what their financial situation is. So we have sort of broken it down into 3 different levels of engagement of what Eco-Internships can help support you with your organization. So we have the first level, which is meant for the slightly bigger organizations, the ones that have staff, full-time staff members that potentially already have like an HR department or have that handled, and they don't really want us to be a part of the HR paperwork necessarily. But they're more looking for just helping them find an intern, recruit the intern, and then support the intern once they're hired with the mentorship and the training. So that has a minimum participation cost of the $350 for that level. And then the most common level that we work with is tier 2, and that's the coaching level. So this is where you might have someone, maybe it's a part-time staff member or a very active board member that will be supporting the intern, and that we kind of help you, coach you through the process. So you would still be responsible for writing the wage subsidy applications and being the main contact to the funders, but we're there to sort of help you, coach you through it. So we can review the application, we can have one-on-one meetings, we can share screen, work on the applications together. We'll also have access to your portal, so that way we can make sure that you're getting the reports done on time. So it's a little bit of extra support, but there's still someone as like a main contact that's not us between you and the funders. And the idea is to help build your capacity as an employer. So we would also send you like reminders for the reports to help them get done. We also have an employer portal. So it's an online resource that you can log into, and it gives a whole bunch of templates of different HR templates you can use. It'll give you all of the rundowns and summaries of all the wage subsidies that match with our program that are available to you. So that's the main tier level that a lot of the organizations participate with us are at, and that has a $250 minimum cost. And then we have our tier 3. So this one has very limited spots available, and it's for the full support. So this is much for the really small organizations that have no paid staff, that don't have any real like full-time or available board members that would be able to supervise the intern consistently. So what we would do is we work with the organization and we would apply for the wage subsidies on your behalf. We would also do a lot of the reporting. We could provide an intern manager for you, and we would just actually manage the reports and submit them on behalf of the organization versus coaching you through it. And it has a minimum of the $150, which is the minimum for the training fees for the intern. So hopefully I have convinced you that it's an amazing program and that it's a great opportunity for your organization to participate in. But obviously there's still the question of how much is this all going to cost the organization, as we all are grassroots organizations and don't have a lot of money necessarily or stable funding. So I want to just start to clarify that Eco-Internships does not provide the wage subsidies directly. So we can't guarantee that we can secure you an intern, but we will commit with working with you to provide you with the support you need throughout this whole process. So as program employers and participants, we do require that you would pay the intern a minimum of $20 an hour for 30 hours a week. So for the purposes and simplicity of some of these estimated numbers I've provided on this slide, it's based on that compensation with about the minimum of the 6 months. So some of these costs would be a little bit more if you wanted to have a longer internship of like 8 to 11 months, for example. So with the intern salary, if you're doing that $20 an hour, 30 hours a week, 26 weeks, you're looking at a gross salary of about $15,600. And then marks can range between $2,000 to $3,000 above that. So it's kind of good to just rough estimate $20,000 altogether for the total amount for intern salary. The program participation, the total cost for the mentorship and the training aspects of the program is the $3,750, which has the minimum contribution of the $150 that we ask. And then depending on if you're tier 1 or tier 2, then there's the admission fee that ranges between that $0 to $200. So by securing a wage subsidy, and depending on what wage subsidy you can secure, that would cover between usually 75 to 80%. Some will cover up to 100% without the MERCs. So that usually leaves your organization to come up with about $5,000 to $7,000 that you would need to be responsible for covering for that intern salary. And if you're adding then the total cost of the training, then usually we just say you would want to budget between $5,000 and $10,000 per intern for a 6-month period. Obviously that will change up, could be up to $20,000 if it was for a full year. And one thing as well is with the training cost specifically, we don't want that to be the reason why you can't apply or feel that you're not able to. So we do, as Eco-Internships, we will further subsidize the training fees as needed so that that won't be an additional burden aside from the $150 to your organization. Usually with most of these wage subsidy funders, they will also provide $1,000 to $2,000 to go towards training. So if you're not able to provide any further money for the training, we just ask you to apply for that training subsidy money so that we can get that money from the funder to supplement some of the costs as well. The rough timeline sort of how our program works is that we open up the applications in January. We have this ongoing intake for both employers and interns in the spring. And then we start applying for these wage subsidies, usually starting as early as March up until the end of July or so. So we aim to have these start dates of the internships earliest in June, starting in July, but they could go all the way up until the beginning of September, which would be the latest time that an internship can start. And then the internship happens mostly throughout the fall, and then it can end sometime between December and February. All wage subsidies usually need to be finished by the end of February. So if this is something that you're interested in or thinking that your organization can benefit from, there is 3 simple ways to apply for the program. Or simple steps, sorry. So one is to go to our website and download the employer recruitment overview package. So this goes over everything I talked about today in more detail as well on the program and all the different components to it. Then step 2 is that you want to submit your application. So this is more of an application of interest. You're not locked in to participate and hire an intern if you fill it out. It's to give us an idea of what you're looking for and to then book up a follow-up meeting with me. So once you fill out that form and submit it, there's a calendar link to book a meeting with me. Then we get to talk over your application. If you have any further questions, I can answer those for you. And we get into a little bit more of the details for what it is and what you can afford with your organization. From that, then we will want you to sign a participant agreement form with Eco-Internships, and that will state exactly how much money and the cost for the program and the training, and I'll have all those details in there for you. If you, aside from tonight, obviously, if you wanted to reach out to me, there's always myself at info@ecointernships.ca as the operations manager. So I run the program on the ground. But there's also our executive director, Chantel, and she can also answer some questions for you if I'm not available. And with that, I just want to say thank you for listening. And I know it's a lot of information at once. But if you have any questions, I will move the floor over to any questions you guys might have.
I have a few questions actually. Thanks for this. I really appreciate it. On the program participation costs, I'm just a little bit confused here. So can you explain why it says $37.50 total costs with a minimum $150 contribution required? Is that
the total cost per intern for the training is the $37.50? But all we ask from the organization is a minimum of $150 contribution out of that $37.50. Then usually we can secure training subsidies for an additional $1,000 to $2,000. So that would cover the most. And then depending on your organization's financial capacity, you can kind of finish topping up whatever the wage subsidies don't cover. Okay. So we're just asking that if you're not able to secure any training subsidies whatsoever, and you have no other funding to go towards the training, that it's just a minimum of $150 that we ask.
Okay, I thought that's what it was, but I just wanted to make sure. So if you could go back a couple slides, I think. So that's a screenshot of the training portal, is it, that they use?
Yes, that's a little screenshot of what they would see in the portal.
Right. So they I think you had said at the beginning that it's on at their own time, at their own pace, and they can do it online, right?
Exactly. It's 100% online. They can do it at their own pace. We usually suggest to try to have it done within the first 2 months of their internship. Sure. That way they have everything sort of reviewed and prepared and good to go and they're not thinking about it while trying to do other stuff for the organization. The time sort of limit or the time piece of it would be the 1 week boot camps that are the live sessions. So we go through all these modules in a week. We kind of condense it all down so that we review each of the modules, and we have a couple like, oh, if you want to review this module before the next class, like then we suggest doing that. But yeah, we aim it's about 70 hours worth of work altogether, and that includes the live sessions. More time could easily be spent in there. There's a lot of resources, but we have it separated into like what the core documents are that they would need within that 70-hour time frame, and then there's a whole bunch of other resources they can use throughout their internship.
And so throughout their internship. So if they went through this and then let's just say we gave them a job to do some fundraising, they'd be able to go back and review that fundraising 101. Yeah.
Exactly. The interns actually have lifetime access to it. So this to help them with their career development, no matter where they go after. So they can always refer back to it. Okay.
My only other question is on eligibility, which was near the beginning. Annual revenue less than $500,000. The Canadian Council would have significantly more revenue than $500,000. So our annual revenue at the Nova Scotia Invasive Species Council is below $500,000, but the Canadian Council is way above it. And because the Canadian Council deals with all this stuff, it's probably true that the Canadian Council would have to, like the intern would be a Canadian Council employee. So
yes, so we would consider, like, we would still work with you guys because we would just focus on the fact that it's doing the Nova Scotia one. So I would still say you're eligible that way. Obviously, it would be more like a tier 1 or a tier 2 level in terms of our involvement, because you guys already have the HR set up through the bigger network, so we wouldn't need to worry about that and get involved in the nitty-gritty with that. Right. So I guess it would just be more of, in terms of the coaching aspect, how much you're involved between the chapter and the national on the reporting requirements. So whoever's issuing the pay stubs would be the one that would have to apply for the subsidy with the funder. So that way the money flow is going to whoever is issuing the pay stubs. And then there's going to be like portal and stuff that you have to submit. So whoever has access to that, or who would be in charge of that, then that would be like if they want coaching from us or not, I guess would depend on those two levels. So if it's like you as a treasurer and you're just focusing on like the Nova Scotia Environmental and you would like to be coached more on how the process works, and you'll be the one that will be doing the wage subsidy applications and writing it on behalf of the bigger organization, then we'll still do that even at the tier 1 level, with this specific situation.
We would, even though we have capacity to do a lot of that stuff, I think we could learn from coaching ourselves from you guys if you were to help us with that. And I think that'd probably be worth paying for. But anyways.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. So I think like in terms of what level I'd apply for, it would probably be the tier 1 would be the one that I would apply under.
Right. Okay.
But we'd still support you with some of the coaching stuff.
Right. Okay. I think that's all the questions I have. So it is 6 months. You had some pretty positive figures there on percentage of people that went on to other jobs and that sort of thing. Do you have an idea how much retention there is where an intern actually stays at that same place? I can't remember if that was one of the numbers or not.
Yeah, so I don't have specific numbers for that, but with this, because a lot of us, we're working with the smaller organizations, they can't continue hiring the intern afterwards because they have to rely on the next round of funding. But our goal is that we actually continue working with the organizations in between and talking about how we can build their capacity as an organization over time so that eventually they can have that financial stability enough to be able to hire some part-times. And another thing that we do as well is that usually an intern can go on about a wage subsidy about 3 times. We can usually try to secure them on some sort of wage subsidy on different streams and whatnot about 3 times before they're maxed out, and they'll get rejected as an intern candidate with the funder. So what we do is let's say, for example, like Michaela, she does an internship under Sea Change Canada for her first 6 to 8 months. And Sea Change Canada really wants to have her back, but one of the rules that the federal government has is that you cannot work at the same organization twice and can't be a current employee. So what we would do is we would say, okay, well, let's partner Sea Change with a different organization that maybe they're doing some shared programming, or maybe it's another organization within their network. And that other organization would try to get a wage subsidy and then would host Michaela as their main intern. But Michaela herself would be a shared intern between the 2 organizations. So that way she can still do a little bit of work for the first organization, but then she'd also be getting some new experience with the Nova Scotia Environmental, for example, at the same time. And then that way that there's still that little bit of continuity there. We still can put through, usually when we have interns taking it a second time around, we have another level of training that's more for leaders versus the intern level. So we put them through the higher level training and different type of mentorship there. So usually to try that workforce development strategies, we try to kind of work with certain interns that prove they're doing really well, or that, they had a really strong connection and both they like working with you guys and you guys like working with them. Then we try to keep them around and try to secure them a different wage subsidy and partner them with different organizations to keep them around, to kind of get around that loophole of you're not allowed to be at the same organization twice.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think Sherry has a question for you.
I do. Hi, everyone. My question would be around if there is a cost to the interns for joining Eco Canada and what that cost would be, and if the selection of interns is done internally, or is the organization who's participating involved in the selection of interns?
For sure. So no, there's no cost to the intern directly. So because we're working with the organizations, we don't charge the interns anything for participating. It's sort of a part of a bonus of their internship, is that they will be going through this training and mentorship as part of their work. And in terms of the process, so what we do is we leave it up to you in terms of how much you'd like to be involved. So the basic sort of process that we do with the intern candidate selection is that we have a general pool that we've had open now since the beginning of January that potential interns can apply to with their resume, and then we put in their interests. We ask them some sort of questions and seeing what they'd like to do, what their backgrounds are. And we also list all the organizations that we are working with, or as the employers sign up, we put this list on our website. So then they have the option to go to the website and kind of see and put in their application if there's a specific organization that they are more interested than others. And then what we do is we get a job description from you guys as the organization of this is what you're looking for, this is the type position that you need, and we try to best match the interns with your organization, and we'll give you anywhere between 5 to 10 intern resumes to review and look at, and then you do your own interviewing process to choose your top 3 on who you would like to hire. And then if you don't like any of those 5 or 10, then we reconvene, we talk about it, and then we send you another batch of interns. So you do have the final say on who you want to hire. It just limits, so you're not going through hundreds of resumes yourself. You're just looking at 5 to 10 at a time.
Right. Anything else, Sharon?
Okay, thanks, Hannah.
No worries.
Okay, well, I think I don't think I have any other questions. Thanks again for that was a really informative presentation. That's great. I've got your website up, so we'll take a look a bit more. The April before we could really do much on it, but which seems to be okay with your timeline, right?
The timeline's good, yeah, because we do the ongoing intake, and usually a lot of the wage subsidies open up in April timeframe. The only exception to that is the Clean Foundation. So you may be familiar because they are based in Halifax. Yeah. They always open early and close quickly, and they opened March 1st and they closed March 18th. So if you were wanting to use them as a potential wage subsidy funder, you would need to apply before March 18th for the subsidy with them. Okay. But career launchers and the other subsidy funders that we work with haven't opened up yet. So if you had to wait till April, then we would just try to get you under one of them instead of Clean Foundation.
I see. Okay. So, is there any geographic significance to availability of interns? Like, I mean, would Clean have more Nova Scotian interns?
They might potentially. I know I do offer that they can give you some candidates, I think, as well, if you post on their board. I'm not sure if they charge for that or not. So there might be more Atlantic candidates with them. We do have a handful of candidates that have been applying. We did a lot of outreach last year focused on the Atlantic regions, and we've done presentations at Dalhousie University and New Brunswick University as well, so the students are aware in your area of our program. So we do also get candidates that are in the Atlantic region, just not as many. And then we also have, if it happens to be a fully remote position, then we have candidates from all over that we can send. But we do get a selected number that apply from the Atlantic region.
Okay, great. That's fantastic. Like I said, I'll download the application and take a further look. But I'm very impressed.
Well, thank you so much for coming tonight.
Okay.
That's good. I was going to add quickly a comment. The last time that I participated in the program, I found the cohort after interns from Ontario. The next largest group seemed to be Nova Scotian interns. So I don't know if since the first time I did it, it really expanded its reach in the province. But I think, Ken, there would be plenty of candidates that now know about this in Nova Scotia, which is great. And the only other thing I was going to say was Cass Harris, who I'm sure you know from NSEN and the Caucus Biodiversity. She has done a couple of eco-internships placements, and the most recent time it was a shared between the Canadian Environmental Network and NSEN. So yeah, those opportunities come up. They're real. It works well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hannah.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And Michaela, thanks for setting this up for us.